It's Wednesday, December 5th. Tonight, a visit to Fort Macon State Park. Next on North Carolina Now.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC TV.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mitchell Lewis. Thanks for joining us. Tonight on North Carolina Now, we'll visit Lewisburg College as the campus celebrates a milestone anniversary. And we'll talk about the future and importance of the biotech industry in our state with Dr. Eric Tomlinson from the Piedmont Triad Research Park. But we begin in a different park. Fort Macon has stood for more than 175 years, resisting attacks from both Confederate and Union forces. In the final part of our series on North Carolina state parks, Dr. Tom Linden takes us to Bogue Banks near Morehead City to tell us about the ongoing battle to save Fort Macon.
Ready, make ready, and fire!
From the War of 1812 to World War II, the military protected Beaufort Inlet from hostile forces. But keeping enemy ships out of North Carolina's oldest deep-water shipping channel has been only half the battle. Fort Macon Superintendent Randy Newman says ocean forces have proven a more formidable opponent.
It's probably the worst location to build a structure, but you had to do it for military purposes. So it's a constant battle, and we're still fighting today to hold Fort Macon in place.
Holding Fort Macon in place means keeping this spit of land out of the sea. Every tide pushes billions of gallons of water in and out of Beaufort Inlet. It only takes a few years or one big storm to completely change the coastline shape. With water on three sides, Fort Macon is at the mercy of the ocean. Park historian Paul Branch says 150 years ago, Fort Macon was in danger of slipping into the sea after earlier protective structures eroded away.
The beach was unprotected again, and by the 1840s, Fort Macon was in danger once again of erosion from the sea. So the Army engineers sent Captain Robert E. Lee, the famous Robert E. Lee, who at that time was just a mere captain of engineers, to Fort Macon to study the problem of shore erosion and what could be done to solve that and prevent the fort from being washed away.
Captain Lee's solution? Build two structures made of palmetto logs and weighed down with stone. These structures, called jetties, worked so well that by the end of the 1840s, 6 permanent jetties protected Fort Macon. These structures kept the sea at bay for more than 70 years, until an effort to deepen the inlet almost destroyed Fort Macon.
Things got extremely bad in the 1930s after some dredging operations were begun that kind of changed the currents around through Beaufort Inlet.
When the Army Corps of Engineers started making the inlet deeper for larger boats, ocean currents got stronger and beach erosion got worse.
This erosion continued up to the point that in my lifetime, in 1958, the erosion was within 11 feet of the road that goes past Fort Macon. And I remember as a child coming to visit Fort Macon that on a rough day, the waves would hit the embankment and splash over onto the road, onto cars passing by.
Engineers have tried to stabilize the movement of the inlet by trapping sand on Fort Macon's beachfront with structures made of rock and wood. 13 of these structures have been built over the years on Bogue Banks. The quickly disappearing shore at Fort Macon would take another hit in 1960 when a massive storm hit every state on the East Coast.
With storm signals up along the entire seaboard, Donna batters the Carolinas, then regains speed.
Beach erosion got so bad after Hurricane Donna that the fort needed additional protection to prevent some buildings from slipping into the sea. In the mid-1960s, the Army Corps of Engineers undertook a massive effort to stabilize the inlet. By 1969, engineers finished building a huge rock wall, called a terminal groin that extended several hundred feet offshore of Bogue Banks. This structure has provided stability for the inlet and the sandy beaches fronting the fort for the last 40 years.
So right now we're at the terminal groin at Fort Macon.
UNC professor and coastal geologist Tony Rodriguez says this structure stops sand from moving into the inlet.
So the terminal groin, it's trapping sand from this side, which is the tip of Bogue Banks. And so this is Beaufort Inlet right in the middle. It's cutting down on the dynamics, the natural dynamics, the shoreline moving seaward and then eroding back and then moving seaward and then eroding back.
Without Fort Macon's terminal groin, ships would have a tough time navigating Beaufort Inlet, and beachgoers couldn't count on having the wide beaches we have today. Keeping the inlet stable is also important to the many people who visit the area.
Little by little, you fall in love with the place and you begin to realize how interesting this place is from a historical perspective and how much history has taken place here. It is really a fascinating place, and it's really one of the centerpieces of this area.
In Fort Macon, we have really important cultural areas, and we don't want to see those become buried in sand or eroded away.
The terminal groin, that structure that juts out into the sea, is the key to keeping Beaufort Inlet deep and the adjacent beaches sandy. But with rising tides and severe weather events that scientists say may be a consequence of climate change, it's only a matter of time before the stability of Beaufort Inlet is threatened again.
This three-part series on North Carolina state parks was written and produced by students in the Medical and Science Journalism program in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at UNC Chapel Hill.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC TV.